What started out as an interesting idea during the heyday of RE2 Remake has now evolved to a popular want within the Resident Evil community. In 2002, the creator of 1996 Resident Evil, Shinji Mikami, released a remake that overhauled the visuals of the game and included additional game and story content to fully realize his vision. Afterward, many fans couldn't help but find themselves wondering whether the beloved Resident Evil 2 would also receive a remake of the same nature. However, this wasn't unplanned for Capcom, since not only did RE1 Remake sell poorly, but it was more of a passion project for Shinji Mikami to make the game he always wanted to make. Yet, the hope for RE2 to get remade lasted for well over a decade, and realizing the fan demand, Capcom released a RE2 remake that sold phenomenally and was received very positively by critics and fans. The main difference, however, is that instead of being a remake like Mikami's 2002 masterpiece, this game was a reimagining that kept the spirit of the original game while also overhauling it with a new camera angle, new enemy types, stellar graphics, and strong narrative changes. This has launched a new era of reimaginings, with RE3 and the upcoming RE4 following suit. Now fans want a multitude of older RE games in need for a modern glow-up such as Code Veronica and Outbreak to get a remake as well. Along with these games, a lot of people are looking back at the very faithful, simple remake RE1 received and seeing the potential in a possible reimagining with a modern spin. However, a lot have argued that 2002 Remake is already a masterpiece, and the RE1 experience can't get any better than that. Both sides are intriguing and have valid reasoning, but what's the correct one? Well, today, I'm going to attempt to answer that question in today's video. What's up everyone, Residential Biohazard here, and if you want more daily RE content, be sure to subscribe. I post a new video every day at 3 PM US Central. Now let's begin. Now the most obvious benefit of a modern day reimagining of the first game are the visuals. For 1996, the first game looked phenomenal, and more impressively, the 2002 remake's atmosphere and pre-rendered environments, especially seeing the HD re-release, still hold up well. Capcom did a fantastic job recreating the horror of the Spencer Mansion in the first remake, and capturing that feeling of exploring such a haunting, fantastical setting full of bloodthirsty monsters. Also, the fixed camera angles, while a product of the time, and a bit controversial of the casual fandom, worked really well in my opinion and led to some great shots. But this presents an opening for a potential reimagining to deviate in terms of presentation. Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake along with Resident Evil Village are some of the best looking games I have ever played, due to Capcom's very impressive RE engine. There's also the fact these games all have very effective and atmospheric settings, and guys, I can only begin to imagine how amazing the Spencer Mansion would look after 20 years of technology have passed. This reimagining would also presumably have a third-person over-the-shoulder camera, and this would allow the mansion to feel much more tight and immersive than any Resident Evil game has felt before. Personally, I would love to play Resident Evil 1 with flawless detail put into its creepy interiors along with darkened lighting. It would truly feel like a haunted house. It's not even a question that the RE engine would elevate this game in terms of realism, immersion, and especially scare factor, not to mention the grisly redesigns the BOWs would receive. Honestly, a reimagining could be justified just on that alone. The Spencer Mansion is my favorite Resident Evil environment, and I would love to see what it would look like in a reimagining. But graphics have never been a huge necessity for me when it comes to the quality of a game. Some of my favorite games ever have outdated graphics that I can look at and appreciate for the time, so it will take much more than a visual overhaul to warrant a reimagining for me. So what about gameplay? This is where the justification for another remake starts getting flimsy. RE1 Remake is what I'd call literal perfection encapsulated in video game form. Its pacing, puzzles, enemy variety, weapon variety, story, and environments are all exceptional. It is gameplay that I literally cannot see being improved. More weapons would be unnecessary given how each weapon from the original remake already served a specific function when dealing with enemy types and bosses. This problem could get remedied if a bigger variety of threats were maybe introduced, giving utility for any new weapons added, but this presents yet another problem. Each of the enemy types encountered in Remake were introduced right when they needed to be and helped add a lot of personality and additional difficulty to certain areas. More enemy types will likely make the game feel too bloated with different enemies and take away the spotlight from the terror of the zombies. One idea the community has introduced is Lisa Trevor serving as an unkillable stalker type enemy with a more major role this time around. While that'd definitely be an awesome addition, with Jack Baker, Mr. X, Nemesis, Lady Dimitrescu, and maybe even Priest Mendez all serving as stalkers in the recent games, the gimmick is admittedly starting to get a little tiring. There's also the issue of how much content this game would add. The Spencer Mansion is already perfectly sized with an abundance of rooms and exploration along with the residents. Both the underground area and especially the laboratory could be expanded since the time you spend in both of them are short, but that could potentially make the game drag and ruin the pacing of the original remake. You see what I mean? The remake is such a perfect game already that reimagining it is such a delicate procedure. Cutting one thing or adding too much can throw everything off balance and easily result in an inferior experience all around. Some side things they could add to the experience that we've seen in recent titles are things like ammo crafting and quick save. The only genuinely worthwhile thing a reimagining could add is a plethora of replayability. This can include stuff we've seen before like in-game challenges, speedrun rewards, an extra content shop, and of course a wide range of different trophies and achievements. Overall, the devs at Capcom are brilliant. I'm sure reimagining could definitely add something worthwhile as far as gameplay is concerned, but I just don't see what that would be personally. Narratively, however, it's a different story. Like I mentioned earlier, RE1 had an awesome story. It has a very simple premise of likable characters and rich background lore, but it doesn't all hold up. Because of the game being 20 years old, obviously the dialogue holds a considerable amount of cheese that, at times, dampens the realism of the experience. At the time, games like RE Remake were extraordinarily immersive and realistic, but it's kind of outdated. Also, while the characters were memorable, they didn't receive as much characterization as they would in a modern remake. It'd be amazing to see the story of the STARS Alpha team's trip to the Spencer Mansion retold in a more cinematic fashion with more believable versions of these characters. It was such a bare-bones story, that leaves a lot of room for Capcom to experiment and change things up to make the story even more engaging, and to also make it a definitive way to experience it. As a huge story guy, this is definitely something I'd personally be excited for reimagining to do. So in conclusion, do I think RE1 Remake needs a reimagining? Not really. Listen, there's a lot of good a reimagining could do, both visually and narratively. But the RE1 Remake we already have is a perfect experience gameplay-wise, and I don't see anything a remake would add that would justify its existence. And I would much prefer if Capcom's efforts went into something else like a Code Veronica or Outbreak remake, or especially an original title like Revelations 3. But that's just what I think. But what do you guys think? Should they remake Resident Evil 1 again, or do you agree that the one we already have is perfect? Let me know in the comments. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, then please like, subscribe, and as always, I will see you guys next time. Peace out.